Every year, millions of hearts stop beating. But in that final moment, when a monitor goes flat and the room falls silent, something extraordinary begins. I'm a brain surgeon, and I've spent my life studying the boundary between life and death. What I've seen will change the way you think about your own final moments. The final beat. When the heart gives its last contraction, it isn't an instant shut-off. For a few precious seconds, the body fights to live. Oxygen still lingers in the blood. Electrical signals still flicker through the brain. Surgeons call this the gray zone. In that zone, the eyes lose focus, yet the pupils still react faintly to light. The skin begins to cool, but deep inside the chest, cells are still burning the last reserves of glucose. To an observer, death looks immediate. But to the body, it's a slow cascade, a controlled collapse. The brain's last stand. Recent studies using EEG monitors have revealed a shocking truth. For up to 30 seconds after clinical death, the human brain can burst into a surge of activity, an electrical storm stronger than anything seen during life. Some scientists believe this may explain near-death experiences, the tunnel of light, the memories flashing by, the overwhelming sense of calm. It's not the soul leaving the body, they argue. It's the brain's final fireworks display as neurons discharge one last time. But what if it's more than that? In operating rooms, I've seen patients whose hearts stop for minutes, yet their brains continue to pulse with coordinated waves, as if refusing to accept the inevitable. For those moments, the brain becomes a battlefield between survival and surrender. The silent revolt of the cells. The instant oxygen supply cuts off. A chain reaction ignites. Each cell in your body contains tiny engines called mitochondria. Without oxygen, they panic, spilling out toxic molecules that begin to eat the cell from within. It's biological self-destruction. Yet strangely, it's also orderly. Like soldiers following their final command, cells start shutting down in sequence. First in the brain, then in the heart, the liver, and finally the skin. Scientists call it programmed death, a last act of discipline before chaos takes over. Time stretches. For the dying person, perception distorts. Some report that time slows to a crawl. In the brain, this makes sense. As oxygen dwindles, neurons misfire in ways that scramble the sense of time. 5 seconds can feel like a lifetime, and in that distorted lifetime, the mind may replay every memory it can reach. Imagine reliving everything. The first breath, the first kiss, every joy and regret, compressed into a final spark. That may be the brain's way of preserving identity one last time before darkness falls. The moment the light goes out. Eventually, the remaining oxygen is gone. Neurons can no longer communicate. The electrochemical chatter that defined your consciousness fades into static. At this exact second, about 2 to 3 minutes after the last heartbeat, clinical death becomes biological death. No heartbeat, no breathing, no measurable brain activity. But inside, the story is far from over. The transition. If you could zoom in on a microscopic level, you'd see an astonishing sight. Millions of cells still alive, working in isolation, unaware that the body they belong to has already died. They'll keep going for minutes, hours, even days, depending on the tissue. This is why forensic pathologists can sometimes harvest living skin cells long after death. Life lingers in pockets and fragments. Death, it turns out, is not an event. It's a process. The invisible shift. As circulation halts, gravity takes control. Blood settles in the lowest parts of the body, creating a dark marbled hue known as livor mortis. Meanwhile, muscle fibers stiffen as calcium floods in, causing rigor mortis. These are just the first physical signs, but on the molecular level, another drama unfolds. Enzymes begin breaking down cell membranes, releasing fluids that seep into surrounding tissues. This self-digestion is called autolysis, and it's the silent announcement that stage 2 is about to begin. Music deepens. The camera slowly pulls away from the still body. Narrator. The heartbeat has stopped. The light has faded. But inside this silent shell, The machinery of life continues to whisper for hours more. In the next stage, that whisper turns into a roar, a transformation so powerful it will reshape Eve, remoleculate your body. The heart has fallen silent. The brain's final storm has passed. But within the body, an invisible war is beginning. One last act of defiance from the smallest units of life. The body's last signal. After the final breath, oxygen levels plummet fast. But not every cell gives up at once. Some still try to send emergency signals, frantic chemical messages to neighboring cells, warning of catastrophe. In those first few hours, the body becomes a battlefield of chemical panic. Adrenaline, lactic acid, and carbon dioxide spike to unnatural levels. Blood, now thick with acid, begins corroding vessel walls from within. It's as if the body is burning itself alive, but quietly. Autolysis, the self-destruction code. Every cell has an instruction manual written in DNA, and hidden inside, a self-destruct sequence. Normally, this command stays locked away. But when oxygen runs out, the code activates. Enzymes begin dissolving cell membranes. Digestive organs like the pancreas and stomach are the first to betray you. Their own enzymes leak outward, melting nearby tissue like wax under heat. The process is called autolysis, literally self-eating. It's not chaos. It's precision. Your body, for all its complexity, is still following a plan, one written long before you were born. The skin's secret reaction. On the surface, changes start to show. The once warm skin loses color, fading into pale ivory. Without circulation, capillaries collapse, and gravity takes over, causing purplish patches along the back, legs, and arms. If you touch it now, the skin feels firm, yet strangely fragile, like damp paper. Microscopic blisters begin to form beneath the surface. Tiny pockets of trapped gases and fluids created by the cellular breakdown below. Soon, these bubbles merge into large patches, giving the skin a marbled, ghostly texture. This isn't horror, it's chemistry. Inside the muscles. Meanwhile, deep inside the muscles, a different transformation unfolds. When living, your muscles rely on ADP, an energy molecule, to stay flexible. But after death, ADP production stops. Calcium floods the muscle fibers, locking them in place. This is rigor mortis, the stiffening of the body. It usually begins within 2 hours and peaks at around 12. Every limb becomes rigid, every joint locked, as if the body is bracing itself against its own decay. But rigor mortis doesn't last forever. As enzymes and bacteria continue their work, the fibers eventually dissolve, and stiffness fades back into limp stillness. It's nature's strange rhythm, tension, then release. The internal weather change. By now, the body's temperature begins to fall at a steady rate, about 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit per hour. This slow cooling, known as algor mortis, turns the body into a kind of natural thermometer for forensic scientists, but also triggers chemical chain reactions. The cooling slows bacterial growth for a short while, until the conditions inside the body shift in their favor. In the gut, a storm is brewing. The awakening of the microbes. Even before death, your body was home to over 39 trillion microbes, living mostly in your intestines. When your immune system shuts down, there's no one left to keep them in check. Freed from control, they begin to spread. They feast on the surrounding tissue, digesting organs from the inside out. The first victims, the liver and pancreas. Then the bacteria migrate through the bloodstream, turning every inch of you into a microbial city of decomposition. To the outside world, it's invisible, but under the microscope, it's a riot of movement, bacteria replicating by the millions every hour, consuming what was once you. The body turns into a chemical factory. As bacteria digest tissue, they release gases, hydrogen sulfide, methane, ammonia. These gases swell through the body, bloating the abdomen, pushing against the skin. It's one of the most dramatic physical transformations, the beginning of stage 3, the expansion, when pressure builds so violently that the body begins to inflate. To forensic scientists, this is normal. To nature, it's essential, a way to return your body to the earth. But on a molecular level, something stranger is happening. The same bacteria that destroy your tissue are also creating new organic compounds that will feed plants, insects, and microorganisms for months. Death is no longer destruction, it's conversion. The background hum intensity. Fees. The camera pulls back through layers of tissue, revealing a quiet, expanding body under moonlight. Narrator. The body that once walked, thought, and loved is now transforming into a chemical engine. What happens next is the most shocking part of all, a violent metamorphosis that announces to the world, death has arrived. The gas within. It begins deep in the abdomen, where the bacteria that once helped you digest your dinner now turn against you. Cut off from oxygen, they switch to anaerobic metabolism, a process that releases powerful gases like hydrogen sulfide, methane, and carbon dioxide. Every second, these gases accumulate in sealed spaces, intestines, chest cavity, under the skin, turning the body into a balloon of fermentation. Within 24 to 48 hours after death, the belly swells dramatically. The skin stretches tight, pulling against clothing, sometimes even lifting the body's limbs slightly from the surface. In the silence of a morgue, this process can sound eerily alive. Soft creaks, faint pops, the whisper of gas escaping through pores. This is the expansion stage, the body's final exhale. The symphony of gases. Each type of gas plays a role. Hydrogen sulfide gives the body its signature smell of decay, a mixture of sulfur, rot, and ammonia. Methane contributes to the inflation, expanding tissue like a balloon. Carbon dioxide dissolves in fluids, creating pressure inside blood vessels that pushes them to their limits. Sometimes the pressure becomes too much. Soft tissues rupture. Fluids seep out through the mouth, nose, and ears. The once still body begins to leak, to weep, marking the beginning of the transition to open decomposition. But beneath the horror lies balance. The gases, though revolting, are chemical signals to the environment. They call out to scavengers, insects, and decomposers. They announce, life is available again. The changing colors. As the gases spread, they carry pigments created by bacterial reactions. The skin, once pale, begins to turn a greenish-gray, first around the abdomen, then across the chest and face. Veins darken, tracing blue-black patterns like tree roots beneath the surface. Forensic experts call this marbling, a visual signature of decomposition that maps the vascular network one last time. The body becomes a canvas of chemistry, painted by bacteria and time. The bloated body. By the third or fourth day after death, the transformation is complete. The body has swelled to its peak, sometimes doubling in size. The tongue protrudes from the mouth, eyes bulge slightly, and skin begins to peel under pressure. In the natural world, this stage has a purpose. It tears open the surface of the body, releasing gases and fluids into the soil. What was once contained becomes exposed, shared, absorbed. Animals, insects, and microorganisms sense these changes instantly. To them, this isn't horror, it's invitation. The smell of return. The gases escaping from a body contain over 400 distinct chemical compounds. Together, they form the unmistakable scent of decomposition, one that can travel miles, detectable even in the smallest concentrations. To the human nose, it's unbearable. But to the natural world, it's a signal of renewal. Flies, beetles, and microbes track this scent like radar, following it to its source with astonishing precision. They arrive not as destroyers, but as recyclers. The first visitors. Within minutes of detection, blowflies arrive. These small, metallic green insects are often the first living creatures to touch the dead. They land softly, inspecting crevices and openings. Then they lay hundreds of tiny eggs in moist areas, mouth, nose, ears, and wounds. Within hours, those eggs hatch into larvae. These larvae, maggots, begin the next great transformation. They eat, multiply, and tunnel through flesh, releasing heat and accelerating decay. If you could measure temperature inside the body now, it might be several degrees warmer than the air around it, thanks to the feeding frenzy within. The body is no longer dying. It's becoming alive again, just in a different way. The bacterial chorus. Meanwhile, bacteria continue their symphony. In the absence of oxygen, they consume tissue and produce more gas, ensuring the process doesn't stop until the body bursts or drains naturally. Every molecule of carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and sulfur released into the air will soon feed something else. Plants, insects, soil organisms. Death, in essence, is the redistribution of elements. The same atoms that once formed your thoughts, your laughter, your tears, are now returning to the cycle of nature. The burst. As pressure peaks, the skin can no longer hold it. It ruptures, usually in the abdomen, releasing a sudden gush of fluids. The gases escape in one final exhalation, deflating the body back towards stillness. What's left is a husk, softer, darker, and ready for stage 4, consumption. The music fades to a deep hum. The narrator's tone grows calm, almost reverent. Narrator. In less than a week, the human body transforms from life to chemistry. What was once flesh has become food. And now, nature's smallest creatures arrive to finish what the body began. The consumption, when the body turns against itself. When the final heartbeat fades, silence doesn't mean stillness. Inside, a quiet war begins. The body you lived in for decades now becomes a perfect laboratory for nature's oldest experiment, decay. Cells, deprived of oxygen, begin to suffocate. Enzymes that once built life now start tearing it down. The stomach digests itself first. The pancreas leaks its own corrosive juices, dissolving tissues that once turned food into energy. As a surgeon, I have seen this in real time. Organs losing their shape, muscles softening into a strange liquid calm. It isn't violent. It's almost organized, as if your biology knows the choreography of its own ending. Within hours, bacteria you carried in your gut, trillions of them, wake to a final feast. They spread outward, breaking barriers, coloring the skin with hues of green and violet. This is not horror, it's transition. The microbes that help you live now help you return. They transform you, molecule by molecule, into nutrients the world can use again. Gas builds, skin tightens. Every pore whispers that life has changed sides. You are no longer consumer. You are consumed. The dissolution, nature's silent sculptors. By the second or third day, the body is no longer human in the familiar sense. Proteins unravel. Fats melt. The tension that once held the shape of your face releases, and gravity begins its final artwork. The jaw slackens, eyes cloud, and color fades like an old photograph left in the sun. Fluids seep into the ground, rich with nitrogen and phosphorus, the same elements found in every living seed. Worms, beetles, and microscopic fungi join the silent procession. They aren't invaders, they're caretakers. I tell my students, decomposition isn't destruction, it's translation. Every drop that leaves the body becomes part of something new. A root's nourishment, a soil's perfume, a forest's memory. The boundaries between life and death blur here. The same chemistry that once fired neurons now feeds moss on the stone above you. Under a microscope, it's breathtaking, cells breaking down like glass in slow motion, releasing light. Some researchers call it biophotonic decay, the final flickers of cellular energy leaving as faint luminescence. It's almost poetic. The body glows before it disappears. Skeletonization, the architecture of what remains. Weeks pass. The feast slows. Only the toughest tissues remain, tendons, cartilage, bone. The soft world collapses, but the structure endures, pale and silent. Bone is stubborn. It resists time like memory resists forgetting. Calcium crystals lock stories inside them. Every step you took, every fracture healed. Archaeologists can read them centuries later like a diary written in dust. Even your teeth keep records. Trace metals reveal the water you drank, the air you breathed, the continent you called home. When I first held a century-old skull in my hands during training, I realized something humbling. This was once someone's future, someone's laughter, someone's heartbeat. And yet, in this form, there's no fear, only stillness. Wind polishes bone. Rain etches it. Eventually, it becomes chalky, fragile, and then gone. The final collapse isn't loud. It's gentle, like snow melting into the earth. The return, century one and beyond. Centuries pass. There's no trace of you. Not the body, not the name, not the story. But the atoms that once built you still exist, scattered across oceans, mountains, and clouds. And here, the brain surgeon delivers his final thought, part science, part confession. As a neurosurgeon, I spent decades studying how the brain dies. But what I learned is that life itself never does. Every death is a transformation, a rearrangement of the same cosmic mat. Ariel that once made the stars. He looks up, eyes reflecting the soft glow of a hospital corridor. The calcium in your bones was once inside a supernova. The iron in your blood came from the heart of an exploded star. You're not ending. You're recycling back to the universe that built you. The screen fades to black. A heartbeat sound echoes, once, then silence. But then, faintly, the whisper of wind through leaves. The light of dawn, the world moving on, carrying your molecules within it. The narration ends. So what happens after death? Everything. You become everything.